25 years old, and I've been married to David for 3 years. The first year was like a beautiful dream. We laughed together, shared our hopes, and built a home filled with love. But slowly, something began to change. It started with small comments about my cooking. "The pasta is too soft," he would say. Then it was about the way I dressed. "Why do you wear such bright colors? It's attention-seeking." Soon, every aspect of my life was under his microscope. I remember the day I bought a new book. David came home, saw it on the coffee table, and his face darkened. "We're trying to save money and you're wasting it on books. Don't you think about our future at all?" His words cut deep, but I apologized, like I always did. The mirrors in our house became my enemies. Each time I looked at my reflection, I heard his voice. "You need to lose weight. Your hair looks messy. Why can't you make more effort?" I started avoiding mirrors altogether. Working as a teacher used to bring me joy, but even that became a source of conflict. "You spend too much time planning lessons," he would say. "Other wives manage to work and keep a perfect home. Why can't you?" I stayed up later and later, trying to balance everything, trying to be perfect. My friend Sarah noticed the changes in me. "You've stopped smiling," she said one day over coffee. I made excuses, stress at work, being tired, but deep down, I knew she was right. The woman who loved dancing in the rain, who sang off key in the shower, who dreamed of writing children's books, she was fading away. One night, after David criticized the way I folded his shirts, I found myself sitting in our garden at 2 a.m. The moon was full, and suddenly I remembered something my grandmother told me. "Your worth isn't measured by someone else's ruler." That night changed something in me. I started keeping a journal, writing down my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams that I had buried. Each entry was like a small act of rebellion against the cage I'd built around myself. I began taking small steps. I bought myself flowers just because. I joined a weekend art class. When David complained, I said quietly but firmly, "This makes me happy." He wasn't used to this response, and neither was I. The real turning point came during a family dinner. David started his usual criticism about my choice of dessert, but this time something was different. I looked at him and said, "I like what I made, David. If you don't want to eat it, that's okay." The table fell silent. I felt my hands shaking under the tablecloth, but my voice remained steady. That night, David and I had our first honest conversation in years. I told him how his words made me feel, how I'd lost myself trying to become his perfect wife. He listened, really listened, for the first time in years. Change didn't happen overnight. Some days were harder than others. Sometimes I slipped back into old patterns, trying to please him at the cost of my own happiness. But I kept reminding myself I deserve to exist as I am. I started seeing a therapist, alone at first, then together with David. We learned that his criticism came from his own insecurities, his fear of not being good enough. Understanding this didn't excuse his behavior, but it helped us work towards healing. Today, our marriage is different, not perfect, nothing ever is, but healthier. I've learned that love shouldn't require you to shrink yourself, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to stand tall in your own truth. David is learning too. Yesterday, he brought home a book for me, the kind he used to call a waste of money. "I saw this and thought of you," he said. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. I'm sharing this story because I know there are others out there living in the shadow of someone else's expectations. Remember, you are enough. You always have been. Sometimes finding your strength starts with a whisper, but that whisper can grow into a roar. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. Your story matters too.